Queen Nefertari, Ahmose-Nefertari. I want to talk about this a little bit. I hope that you are doing well. God bless you. We're gonna minimize some things here and kind of get started, right? Getting started talking about Ahmose-Nefertari, and I want to talk about her. And you see her right here, right up here on the far left, on the upper left hand corner of this depiction here. And she was a queen during the New Kingdom. She was actually the first queen, if you will, of the 18th dynasty. She was the main wife, the wife of Ahmose the first, who was the founder of the 18th dynasty, and she was a queen. And what strikes me so much about her, as I think about this and I think about divinity, she was somebody who was venerated and literally worshipped and venerated for years, hundreds of years after her death, hundreds of years after. What do you have to do with your life to make your life have an impact where people will remember you and even venerate you and respect you for hundreds of years after you passed away? What do you have to do? And she's somebody who is clearly, and I'll talk about this depiction here, who's respected, and we don't ever talk about her. But as we start to think about our lives, or you think about your life, I think about my life, what can we do to be divine? What can we do to be able to manifest that type of divinity, have that type of impact in life, where people will remember you and respect you, and you have something to offer. The lessons in your life and the legend of your life has something to offer people many, many years after you die, many, many years after you're gone. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Hope that you are doing well. God bless you. Thank you for all the members who've supported and who've joined our membership for $4.99 a month, and those who are supporting me on Amazon and buying the books, Religion of the Black Land, and those types of things. I very much appreciate that. God bless you for joining that. And I thank you very much. So I want to kind of jump in here. And I know there are a lot of people who have a lot of comments. I know a lot about Nefertari and Ahmose-Nefertari. I know that a lot of people know a lot about the New Kingdom. So I'm interested to hear your comments and what your thoughts are about this. So as we kind of jump in and talk to her a little bit, let's just kind of set the picture. Who was she? When did she live? What are some things we can find out about her, we can know? And you can see right here, this is a bit of a depiction, a little mini family tree, if you will, taking a look at Ahmose I, and he is the founder of the 18th dynasty. So you see him on the left there. And he ruled from about 1550 BC to about 1525 BC. And it's good to kind of set the stage, because at the time he came to power, it wasn't an easy thing. I mean, this was a time period after the second intermediate period, if you will, in Kemet's history. It's a time when the Hyksos, the people who were foreign rulers, who were ruling and in power in the northern part of Kemet, it was a time when they come to power. And as they were in power in the northern part of Kemet. They were there, and if you kind of get a perspective of the northern part of lower Kemet, they were there, and they were in the Delta region, and they had a significant, stranglehold, if you will, a significant hold on power for about more than 100 years. From about 1640 to about 1550 or thereabouts. They had a significant hold on power, if you will, and it wasn't a given that the people who were in Waset and Thebes in the southern part of Kemet, there near Aswan, right above Aswan, above that, near Waset, that they were going to be able to make the foreigners, who they considered foreigners in their land, get out. They were going to be able to make things and take over. So that was a challenging time in Kemet's history. And Ahmose I is seen as one of the most important people, because he was able to reunify the land again after that second intermediate period of disruption. And as he did that, he kicked the Hyksos out, kicked them clear out of Kemet, but he wasn't alone. He didn't do it alone. And you see them on the left, his wife, Ahmose-Nefertari. She was there, and she ended up being somebody who behind the scenes was respected by so many people, and saw kind of almost like a saint, if you will. I mean, we talk about these things, and we kind of look at, sometimes we'll look at ancient history and we'll say, those people behaved in certain ways, or we would kind of dub our noses at them, or people will say, things about the way they believe, their religion, their theology. But a lot of people still today look at saints. A lot of people today they venerate people. They respect people. They look at people in various religions and denominations and put them on pedestals and remember them. And so it's not unlike what people were doing before. We still do that to some extent today. But Ahmose-Nefertari was the queen. She was the main wife of Ahmose I. And they're one of their children, were royalty of course. One of their sons, Amenhotep I, who you see will be pictured down there. You see at the very bottom of that screen, Ahmose I. He is and you can see it up in this right here. He's sitting in front of her in this particular depiction here. He becomes the king after his dad. So after Ahmose I is king, and after he dies, his son Amenhotep I becomes king. He becomes a ruler. And what you see in this whole picture right here. It's interesting because you notice from the time period, Ahmose I is living from, he's ruling from about 1550 BC to about 1525 BC. And obviously he's married at the time, and he has his children, and his son Amenhotep I will become ruler. Well, this depiction that you see here is a depiction that was taken from a tomb some 300 years after they lived, 300 years after 1550. So you're going in the 1200s, in the 13th century BC. And these people, this is a family. This is a man, Ken, and his wife's name is also Nefertari. And these are his two sons. His two sons were Merymery and Huey. These were his two sons. And they are literally people who were part of the Artisans group. Ken was a sculptor. And he did, when you think about the people who made the tombs, think about the Valley of the Kings and the Valley of the Queens and these wonderful depictions. Think about King Tutankhamen and his tomb and all the wonderful artifacts you see there, and the sculptures that were there, and in the whole area, and the fine craftsmanship and the things that were painted and things that were done. These were skilled workers who did that. These were people who built it. And this is one family who did it. And this gentleman right here, Ken, he was a sculptor. He was a sculptor in the Valley of the Kings, if you will, in that whole area where there was a village where these were the craftspeople, where they lived, where they worked, and their families lived with them. And you can see, and many times I just want to point out, a lot of times people will say that ancient Kemetic people, they always painted the men like red and they painted the women like yellow, and that was like a significant thing. So you can't really look at how they look to be representative of what they really look like in terms of skin tone. People say that all the time. Of course, you see depictions, but here you see this woman is not yellow. She's not painted in the yellow, as if she was a priestess. She's not painted. She's painted with the same complexion as her husband and her sons. And there's no difference in their complexion, if you will. So it's people, sometimes people will say that, but they don't really give you the breadth. And people a lot of times want to kind of hem you in and not let you look at history for yourself. And that's one of the things I want to talk about as we think about our divinity, as you think about what it is you can do with your life. Don't let people hem you in. Don't let people take you off your track. Don't let people distract you. Don't let people take you off of the path and the agenda that God has for you. God has a path for you. And when you do that, you can start to have an impact on many, many people's lives, even after you're dead, even after you're gone. And so this particular depiction right here, as I said, is Ken. He's a sculptor. That's his wife, Nefertari. And those are their two children. And at top, you see Nefertari, the queen, and this is some 300 years after she's dead, and her son Amenhotep I, and this is also a long time after he's passed away, and they are literally venerating him. They are literally, a lot of the people who built the Valley of the Kings and the Valley of the Queens and did all that amazing artistry and artwork and just skilled work in the New Kingdom. A lot of them, they themselves, left things with respect to them. They themselves put forth artwork and their beliefs, and they had people that they venerated. I mean, these are people who most likely had very deep-seated religious belief that when they were doing their work, they were obviously doing their work and believed in it, whether they were a scribe or a sculptor or a painter or some type of carver or whatever workmanship that they were doing, they believed in it. And there were people that they also looked at. That it wasn't just a matter of, it wasn't just the king necessarily, and it wasn't just a matter of someone else being divine, or it wasn't just a matter of the person whose work you were doing. Other people, if they lived their life in a certain way, were also venerated. And these people would have had very strong religious and heartfelt beliefs in the things that they were practicing and the things that they were writing about and the things that they were making, right? They believed them. And it's clear here that he is showing his respect for Amenhotep I and for Queen Nefertari, as well as his wife, whose name is also Nefertari, and their two children, who, by the way, are all the same skin tone, not a different complexion. And so you think about that, it's very hard sometimes when you are trying to manifest your own divinity, when you're trying to live your own divinity. And I really think about her because there's so much I've heard about her and read about her. And even though it's not like she's known by a lot of people or talked about by a lot of people, the people in ancient Kemet knew her. The people in ancient Kemet remembered, the artisans in ancient Kemet remembered her, and they venerated her and respected her for, like I said, years and years, hundreds of years after she died. And some people even say longer than that, maybe 1,000 years after she died. She was venerated and remembered for her role and what she helped to do, her and her husband, what she helped to do to help bring the kingdom back from what was taking place in terms of their period of disruption, and for her role in what she represented the people who were doing this type of skillful work. When you are trying to be divine, when you are trying to do the work that God has for you to do, one of the main things you have to do, as I said, is not let people take off your path, not let people distract you. And I hear a lot of folks, and I even got like one message very recently when someone wants to, challenge, and they want to kind of get into an argument about whether or not the ancient Kemetic people were black. track. Why do you believe that? Or this kind of, and you're thinking, what are you doing? Right? You think so people who want to just argue over things that are obvious, argue over things that make no sense, and want to basically put you in a situation where they're trying to egg you, where you're taken off track. Imagine if you have a magnificent thing that you could do, something that could go down in history, when many, many people with thousands of years after your death, people will remember what you're doing, and you're contributing to people's positive view of themselves. Imagine being taken off track by what somebody says. Imagine being taken off track by letting someone else define for you what history should mean for you, what worship should mean for you, what God should mean for you, what your view of yourself should be. Imagine that's one of the most important perspective you have in your life is the one you have of yourself. That's the most important perspective you have. How you view yourself and your relation to God. If you think that you're limited, if you think that you cannot do, then you're going to have a lot of things you're not going to be able to accomplish. Just like that flea that can't get out of the jar. If you have that perspective, if you have that view of yourself, then you are not going to be able to accomplish. One of the most important things you can do is if people are taking you off track, or if things are interacting with you, or you're interacting with things that are making you think different of yourself than what you really are, making you have an unhealthy perspective of yourself and what you can accomplish, you need to cut those things out. You don't engage with them. It's like playing with fire. Why would you play with something and engage with something that is dangerous to you, that takes you off track, that allows you to be misguided, or allows you to be in a situation where you're not about God's work? There's a story in the Bible where Jesus is young and he left home. He went to the synagogue and he spent several days there. His mother and father, they were, worried for him, and they found him in the synagogue, and they were like, what are you doing? You've been here. He said, didn't you know I'd be about my father's business? Didn't you know I'd be doing the work? Like, why were you worried? Like, didn't you know I would be doing God's work? That whole idea, you're talking about someone and being focused on the things that God has for you. So whatever that is in your life, whether that is artistry, whether that is singing, whether that is music, whether that is math, whether there's a myriad of things, being a father, being a mother, whether that is changing things for the better. What if you were focused on that all the time? What if you did not allow someone's perspective to be in place of what yours is? Allow someone's perspective to change how you view yourself, because that's what this is all about. When we see Ahmose-Nefertari here, manifested as a divine figure, manifested from a divine way, and see her son sitting right there. Here you have the perfect display of mother and son, mother and child being venerated by people who at the time were alive and at contemporary at the time, by people who lived 300 years after them, hundreds of years after them, being venerated. Imagine if you stop and say, what are we talking about here? What did this picture say? What are they actually saying? When you think about it, they're actually saying there was something special about these people. There was something special about this woman, something special about her son, something special that we should remember them. It wasn't just the king, because this was during the time most likely of Ramesses II, which is hundreds of years after the start of the New Kingdom. So when Ramesses II comes around, and around 1279 BC or thereabout, he comes around hundreds of years after the start of the New Kingdom. So he's after this time. These are people saying that these people who lived a long time ago had something divine about them. It wasn't just about Ramses, even though people will talk about Ramses and talk about how he built a lot of things, and that as if it was all about him during the time of his reign, but it wasn't all about him. You had people who were still remembering and venerating other people, and it goes down to divinity. Like, what is divinity? Like, what does that even mean? If you start asking, what does it mean to be divine? What does it mean to be manifesting God's will? What does it mean to manifest divinity? And we start to think about Ahmose-Nefertari, because I'm thinking about her because she gave birth to him, right? This whole idea of not allowing someone else to define for you what your potential is, define for you how you should look at yourself. The whole idea of saying to yourself, yeah, maybe I can. At the end of the day, when you have a thought and you're dealing with something that's challenging, if you allow yourself to have a negative thought that just breeds over and over again in your mind, you're probably not going to be effective. You're probably not going to feel good. You're probably not going to have the energy or the courage it's going to take to stand up and do whatever it is you have to do, because in your mind, you're telling yourself, it's almost like a movie that you're playing over your mind. This is going to be bad. This is going to have a bad thing. Well, it's going to be hard for you or any of us to be able to reach our potential or our divinity if we allow that to play. Imagine if you replace that. Imagine if you replace any of the negative naysayers, any of the negative things that may come up in your mind or that other people might say with something positive. Yeah, I can't. What if you say, this woman did it, I can do it too? What did she do, right? What did she do to be remembered? What did she do to be divine? What did he do? What did her son do? What did they do to be a mother and son together? Because it's interesting to me, this is not depicting her and her husband. This is not depicting her and her husband. This is depicting her and her son. Interesting. What did he do? What did they do as mother and child? What did they do as parent and child, mother and son, to be able to be seen as divine? What thing did they break through? You know what I'm saying? Because this is not Tutmos the first that this is not Tutmos the third. This is not Ahmose. This is Ahmose-Nefertari, a queen, and her son. And as I think about that, and we start to, and it's not that the other people were not respect, but as I think about that, we start to say that ability to be able to stop the negative things that may come in, that ability to be able to stop that and say, what if this turns out right? What if I can do it? Because at the end of the day, if you're going to win something, at least win in your own mind, right? Even if you go out there and you play a game and, whatever that game is, the game of life, the game of football, people are watching football, right? Football is starting. People want to watch that. Whatever that is, even if whatever happens in the game, what if you at least win in your mind? What if you at least win the dream, win the game, win the whatever it is you're looking for, at least win that battle in your mind and not have a negative thing? Because the worst you're going to do is to be able to release good endorphins, is to be able to give your body a positive chemical, neurochemical response as opposed to a negative one that tightens you up and takes away your energy and make you think that you can't do it. That to me becomes a fundamental thing about it. So when I think about this, your divinity, my divinity is not dependent on anybody else. It's not dependent on their behavior. It's not dependent on their belief. It literally depends on you and I. It depends on how you think about yourself, what I think about myself, and how I expect that to other people. Because at the end of the day, when you see the divinity in yourself, you see it in other people as well, and expect it in other people. You see it in other people, and you start to say, you know what? Everybody can do this. It literally is space in God's garden for everybody. It's space in this room for everybody to excel. It's space for people to do it. So as I see this and I start to see depictions like this, I don't get, taken aback by it. And I don't just get, caught up in exactly what they look like and all the people here and what they look like and what their skin color was, which is important. I get that. But, what about beyond it? What were they doing? This brother had skills. This brother had a job. He had skills that we're remembering and seeing today, thousands of years after he lived, right? This sister had something about her. She had skills. She had something about her. She was talented. She had something about her that was legendary, that made people remember her and respect her, what she was able to do for the people of the country. This brother had something that was indicative of divinity, indicative of people respecting him. And as I think about that, that gets a little deeper, but it takes us outside of the realm of just arguing the obvious, right? As we notice, we see this brother here, we know this sister here. And I see this all the time when people will say, hey, they have different skin colors for the men and the women. And you see all kinds of depictions where it wasn't. You look at, you meet people, people, you see people from all around the world, and you see people who look just like that. People try to mix the waters and say these people were not this. At the end of the day, it becomes important for us to process that, hear that, because maybe you need to hear it. Maybe we need to hear it. But we also need to do something beyond that, because beyond that, our ancestors are telling us there's more that you can do with this. There's more that you can do with life. There's literally, when you think about recreating civilization, when you think about recreating your life and just living as much as you can, being as proud, whether you do something big on a big scale that everybody knows about, or you do something that's big for you, that's big for your family, that's big for your life, whatever it is, you got something big to do. You got something special to do. And as you start to think about that, don't allow anything and anybody to take. So I hope that these conversations, these things that we see, that the history we talk about encourages you and inspires you, because it inspires me. That's why I get fired up about it. Inspires you to do more. Inspires us to do more with our lives, whether people see it or not. To wake up in the morning and be happy, to wake up in the morning and know and think that I can do this. Whether that problem is if it's math, if you're looking at, if it's a job, if it's finance, whatever that challenge is, being able to wake up in the morning. What if this turns out right? Because it is an amazing thing. These guys were not talking about fake stuff, guys. It is an amazing thing. When you start to think positive, when you start to allow that divinity, literally is God flowing through you, that the universe, God is working with you, your spirit is working with one with God, you begin to find things happen for you and things work out for you in ways you didn't know. You begin to see things that are connected when you yourself are on a positive perspective versus on a negative. That alone should make us want to say, you know what, how high can I be as a human being? How much can I do? How high can I go? What can I accomplish? Like, what do we ask? How high can I jump? What more can I do? How high can I do? How many shots can I make? How far can I go? Can I go farther than anybody else has ever gone? And the person who comes after me may go farther, how high can I go? That's the kind of stuff that pushes you forward. That's the kind of stuff that pushes us forward. That's the kind of things that pushes mankind, people forward, when we start to ask those types of questions and build on the ancestors that came before us. So it becomes significant to me when I see this man and his wife and this family, together, praying together, a family that prays together, stays together, seeing this man and his wife praying together, remembering their ancestors, giving them respect, and being able to then move forward their family and their people in a way that's different. So as I look at, I'm going to stop real quick and look at a couple of comments, and some of the comments down below. God bless you. Thank you so much, Jim Bob. I very much appreciate that. Please invite Robin Rock. I have to look into that. I appreciate so much. I am so I very much want to thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. That is it's very helpful. Any support is very helpful. So I thank you so much, Jim Bob. God bless you very much. So thank you. Not getting I use it. Okay. We'll have to see if we can sign up for notifications. I'm trying my best to go around the same time, but we'll see how that works. We'll see if we can sign up for notifications for it. So I think about that, as you guys are mentioning some things in the comments. Thank you so much. The whole idea of how do we make this to the point where we're happy? How do we make this to the point where we are using this content and the things that we're doing? Thank you so much, Jim Bob. God bless you. We are doing these things to the point where we are living a more fulfilled life. Because at the end of the day, if we're not taking the teachings of our ancestors, because we've talked about on this show, we've talked about the teachings of Amenhotep and the teachings of Kejimni. We've talked about the negative confessions or the declarations of innocence. We've talked about the pyramid texts and various things. How do we take, our ancestors are like screaming at us like, hey, these are lessons. We're telling you that this stuff works. If you live your life according to this way, you're going to be happier. Jesus said, I came that you may live and that you may have life more abundantly. What did that mean? And people take that abundance materially. That's what people do. For the most part, people fail to teach about and to preach about abundance of peace, abundance of joy. Because money can't make you happy, right? And that doesn't mean you can't have it. God can do two things at one time. God can do more than one. You can have that, but you got to have abundance of joy. What about that? And and being able to do something from a place of joy, being able to do something from a place of positivity is much more strength. You have a whole lot more strength when you approach a problem with confidence. And that doesn't mean you're not going to have conflicting. That's going to happen. That's part of it, right? Because if you want real spiritual muscles, you got to lift real weights. You're going to have real problems that approach you. How do you handle it? But as you begin to handle one problem after the other, you begin to develop skills that you can pass on to your children. Imagine how many children have difficult coping mechanisms. And I think about people, who harm other people and how people who are being abused and people who do the harms, like that kid who shot up all those people who's being tried as an adult, right? What was going on there? What kind of guidance? What was going on? The guy who allegedly did it, who shot those people, what's going on there? What kind of guidance? What kind of coping mechanisms do a lot of our children have? And some of our children obviously are not doing to that extreme. They may just be sad, or they may just be not able to handle regular situations that maybe their foreparents, maybe their grandparents can handle, but they can't handle it because they don't have coping mechanisms. Imagine being able to teach ourselves and teach our children how to handle life. People always say children come and they come without a manual, that there's no instruction manual, but there actually is. Think about it. This is an instruction manual. Our ancestors, the ancients, left down an instruction manual. They're telling you to believe in yourself. They're telling you to behave yourself in a moral way, that there's power in morality, that there's peace in morality. They're telling you to remember your ancestors and to respect them, to respect authority. And it's not just the fact that they're older. You have to be respectful. You have to be a person who's worthy of respect, not just that you just get it. You have to earn that respect. They're telling you to respect that. They're telling you to have a situation where you understand that you are literally a manifestation of God, that you are literally somebody who God can work through, that you are literally somebody who doesn't have to take a backseat to anybody, that you are literally somebody who can manifest divinity in your life and be happy. They're telling us that. They're saying it over and over again. They're screaming. They're telling you that you do it through prayer. You do it through practice. You cut out things that give you negative impact. You cut out these things. This is how you get this done. You begin to work on it. Just like you spend time watering a flower and working on other things to grow, you spend time on your spirituality. You work at it. You pray at it. They're telling you how to do it. And as I think about it, they're saying to us that it's possible. Not everybody around the world has to have a bad day. or has to have a bad life, or has to have a life where things are just negative. Or that doesn't have to be. We need to reject that. And if we're living in a situation, it's because all of the media and the things that we're giving us are telling us that, and we are changing our view and our perspective of ourselves and our perspective of what it needs to be and how it has to be. So I pray that we do that. I pray that we start to look at these things and to see this young man and his wife and their two children, and to see their life as an example. This family working together, this family respecting each other together, this family respecting the laws of Ma'at together. The laws of Ma'at were clearly looking at morality and righteousness. They were clearly looking at it. These are people many years ago telling us that when you're righteous, when you're pursuing these things, things go well for you. Things are much better in your society. Things are much better for you in your life. Things are much better for you and your family. You have a lot more fulfillment and joy when you live your life in a moral way, in a righteous way, and when you understand who you're connected with. Things are much better for you. So I pray that we look at that. Now I'll kind of take a look at a couple of the things that are there. I pray that we look at that and we start to kind of remember that and remind ourselves of it. God bless you. That these are things that mean a difference, and that history is not just something that we just talk about and we read. It's literally looking at the lessons and the things that we can apply to our lives. And our ancestors are telling us that you can be happy, that you can overcome the things that are affecting you in your life. You don't have to live your life every day negative. You don't have to feel like there's no power in it. You don't have to get your power from somebody on TV. You don't have to get your power from somebody to tell you and to give you permission to be happy. You can actually do that every day. So I want to explore this more and more. I hope you like the information. I'm going to share it. And even if it just helps one or two people or helps me, hopefully it helps you, helps me. I'm going to do it because at the end of the day, if we can wake up and have a good day every day, if we can wake up and smile in our heart and have an abundance of joy, imagine an abundance of joy that lasts. Anything you do, whatever you put your mind to is going to be more fruitful. It's going to be more enjoyable. Whatever you do, whatever endeavor you have in your life is going to be much more joyful and much more mindful, much more abundant to you. So I hope that it helps you. And I'm going to keep coming back with it, with various different things about this. So God bless you. Thanks so much for listening. Please put your questions and comments down below, and I'll talk to you very soon. God bless you.